The fraudster never touches the product at all. They're pocketing this money, and they're basically using our fulfillment like a laundering system.
I can't imagine like what the customer support war room was like, where it's like, what is going on? We don't see this anywhere. We don't see anything.
They sent us 2 empty boxes instead of 2 bookcases, and they got their full refund because we didn't realize it until the warehouse was like, what's up with these empty boxes?
We believe the future of fraud is happening in customer support. All of that is being routed to the customer support team.
Like policies and automations also that are designed to be really customer friendly and fast and like easy. You have to be so careful because that is exactly where you're going to get exploited.
If you think fraud looks like hackers in hoodies, you're already behind. The best hacker in the world is sitting next to me. The real losses come from normal looking customers exploiting your policies. We've watched brands get drained through refunds alone, and today we're going to talk about why. All right, we did it.
Wow.
Here we are. Look at us. Who would have thought? Well, welcome. We're really excited to be here today. I'm Jordan Shamir. I'm the head of product, but former founder of Yofi.
I'm Alex Shamir, not married, siblings, former co-founder of Yofi, and now the VP of Data Risk at NoFraud. Or I guess no longer NoFraud. I think we have some exciting news to admit.
We are now Wyllo. Yeah, I think one of the big things as part of obviously the merger and acquisition is actually thinking larger than just thinking about fraud, but looking more at it holistically of like, what is the customer experience, right? And I think a big reason why we're filming, Customer XO and we're kind of releasing a lot of stuff around customer experience is ultimately we know that the customer experience team is the most important thing for the success of any retail or e-commerce business, right? How do you give that Home Depot feeling when you go into the store, or that REI feeling of I need this niche camping stove, right? And I think the whole point of this podcast and a lot of the great guests that we're going to be having on this season and larger is actually, how do we give a platform? How do we aggrandize all the work that people are doing? Because ultimately, the CX team is what makes the business run.
And I think what we've realized through the years is that what we viewed as fraud, and looking at payments fraud specifically, was such a small area where it's truly about that customer experience, and how those customers interact with your CX team really defines their journey, right? And so you have to look at the 0 to 100th part of their journey, not just the payment layer, to understand what fraud they are doing. I think that's the genesis of this podcast, and also the genesis of the rebrand of NoFraud into Wyllo. It's a very important understanding that fraud no longer hides behind a credit card, PayPal, or more. It's truly who's chatting with you, how people are chatting with you and interacting within your site.
Yeah, and I think the complicated things for a lot of times, to your point, my item was lost. It was missing. I got a bunch of rocks back. My shoe ripped when the first time I went on a run, right? Like, customer experience and customer support teams deal with this every day. And how do you discern if the customer is telling the truth or not telling the truth? And unfortunately, because of access to the lack of data, being overwhelmed, teams have made hard-coded policies, right? Our vision from a Wyllo perspective is actually to understand customer intentionality. How do we remove friction from good actors? How do we add friction to bad actors? Where ultimately we're improving the customer experience, but also helping to improve the profitability of the brand, right? The day of the customer always being right is over partially.
And we're arming the people who interact with your customers the most, right? That's your customer support team. They're your front line, people who need to care the most and have the most data. Previously, they've been pretty neglected. They have limited insights to data. They have to work based off of NPS scores where they just want to improve everything because they're so afraid of having any type of friction. Now we're giving them that flexibility, that visibility, so that they can do their job better and protect profitability at the same time.
So just to start off, really excited to have our first guest, Taylor Johnson from Nathan James. We love Taylor beyond just her accent, her love of Metabase, and wanting to do a meetup at Tractor Supply. She has dealt with fraud and customer experience for honestly a very long time. And it's really interesting to see, and you'll see over the show, but Taylor has a really unique perspective because at Nathan James, they're selling furniture. It's heavy. It's different type of fraud techniques.
The shipping alone is such an expense where, like, could you imagine trying to do FTID back and it's on a 200-pound dresser and it's coming back as a 1-pound piece of envelope?
Yeah, it's wild, and different product claims, different AI images, different things that we're seeing. We also discuss whether the Better Business Bureau is a conspiracy or not. It's probably a theme you'll see throughout this season, but very excited to be having Taylor from Nathan James on. She's just an incredibly thoughtful person and understands fraud and customer experience super well.
There's no one who could convince me more to buy chickens probably than Taylor. If I'm going to Tractor Supply, I'm coming out with some chickens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a fun conversation because I think we got really into triangulation fraud, where people were going to resell their products on third-party marketplaces. And so it was very interesting where someone legitimate wants to buy the product. They buy it through someone on a third party. That third party is actually a fraudster using fake payments, and it's all going like this.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing with like just talking with Taylor, which is just kind of a universal thing, is like fraud is all about blind spots and data silos. Yep. Like where can you hide in the shadows, right? So if I'm like reselling on a third party site, I'm buying from Nathan James, I'm drop shipping somewhere else with a fraudulent card, right? The more steps you make, the harder it is to detect, right? And fraudsters, like I think we say this, like whatever the first industry was, the second industry was fraud, right? People are always going to find different loopholes. They're always going to find ways to exploit different things. And yeah, it's just a very insightful thing because a lot of times you don't think about furniture from like an online fraud perspective.
And I think it's a very interesting use case, right? I think I mentioned it earlier. It's such an expensive item, right? When you think about the logistics, reverse logistics, sometimes when you order furniture, right, you have to get someone white glove deliver it. So it becomes like an interesting experience because if I can't accept it back, right, because it's too heavy and I don't want to pay the reverse logistics fee, the next step is taking it to majority of furniture places will tell you to take it to Goodwill and ask you for a Goodwill receipt.
Or donate it to a friend.
And then so it becomes like an area and a hot niche topic where people will like Photoshop or use Gen AI to say this is a broken table so that they can keep the item for free. And so really diving in with Taylor became so interesting to see how they handle it from a logistics standpoint as well, because it's not an item you can just throw away or easily write off.
Yeah, it's not something you can send back necessarily very easily, right? And so, yeah, and I think like, you know, if you think about like Taylor and kind of her stories, right? Like you think about the fake images and the fake receipts, right? Comparing and contrasting. And by the way, that's like a big theme, right? Like people can remember addresses, they can remember names, but like ultimately, like how long did it take till they recognize the fake receipt and invoice? And I think the scary thing is if you think about your customer support team, unless you recognize that from a human eye perspective, like you get hundreds of images a day of like, oh, my box was a little bit damaged. Like this is a little bent. How do you know what's a legitimate versus not legitimate claim?
And I know we talk about this more further down in the podcast season. A lot of the times it takes that one CX agent to notice something wrong, to realize it's a template, and it spirals and starts this rabbit hole, which is really fascinating because I think what you said earlier, it really takes one person to notice it's a template. But when you have thousands of tickets a day, how do you use tools to help you detect that? How do you get smarter about it? How do you start realizing, hey, this looks illegitimate, so you're not just saying, okay, look, I guess this is a true item, or hey, this looks like a real invoice.
Yeah, and you know, you just think about like I keep thinking is just like the surface area that customer support has to deal with, whether it's you know AI customer support or human customer support. You have to deal with like warranty claims, images, chats,
police
reports. Oh, my item got lost. Oh, just kidding, it finally arrived, right? Like you think about the amount of daily things you need to process, and like your goal is incentivized to give the client the best experience possible. Your goal is incentivized to close tickets as much as possible, right? It's kind of creating a little bit of like a lose-lose situation, right? And that's where fraudsters are continuing to target, right? And I think one of like the unfortunate realities in what we're trying to, you know, obviously solve at Wyllo, which is something Taylor brought up, is like, how do you make the customer experience dynamic? How do you make it better for really good clients? Hey, yeah, we trust you. You have a good purchasing history. Just go donate it to a friend, make that friend super happy. But like a fraudster, how do we add friction? How do we make it hard? Maybe we charge them a fee. Maybe we route them through customer support, right? Like, how do we have that dynamic, personalized experience?
And I think it's going to become more and more apparent every single day, especially because you think about Agentic and Agentic AI. Majority of the time now, you're not going to talk to a human, right? or a human's going to, or agentic AI is going to start ordering for you? Well, it's going to be two bots talking to each other at the end of the day. Obviously, the fraudsters are going to take that for their advantage.
Yeah, no, they're going to take it for their advantage. But I think like the really interesting thing is like, obviously we've talked to a lot of our merchants and we see about like 25% adoption on like AI from a customer support perspective. But how do you start embedding that customer and human experience within that agentic workflow? And I don't think we know what that looks like yet,
Nope.
right? And so like that's where we actually view customer experience as actually growing in importance.
It's kind of like that notion, right, where they're like, oh, retail and physical retail is dead, and everyone's called it. And then now physical retail is bigger than online again. So It's just interesting how like the pendulum swings. And I think like back to your point, that human experience always will need to be there. Mm-hmm. And like I think that's why building tools like we have at Wyllo and Yofi, it's really important to continuously build that dynamic experience. So I'm excited to hear what Taylor has to say.
Likewise. If this is hitting close to home, check out customerxo.com. Every episode we're breaking down how to spot customer intent signals already sitting in your customer support queue, because not all customers are created equal.
One of the more complex fraud schemes, fraud cases that I have experienced was with what is called triangulation fraud. And so for a little context setting, this was a product, this is a supplement product, and very typically like high value. It's sold at a pretty high price, and very popular. So what would happen is the fraudster would list the product on a site. They could make like a fake site or like their own site, or they might list it on like eBay or some other marketplace for a much lower price than what it's normally sold. So that pulls people in, it like draws people in and makes them want to get it for this great deal. And so someone who is a legitimate consumer who wants this product will go and buy from that listing that the fraudster created, and they pay them with their own credit card. So the fraudster pockets that money. And then what they will do is they will go, because this person now wants their product, and they have to withhold, like especially if they're on a marketplace, they have to withhold their reputation there. So they have to fulfill the product. So what they will do is they will go to the brand's website and they will purchase it using a stolen credit card, a whole other party victim to this scheme. And they will buy the product there from the brand and then ship it to the legitimate person who wanted the product. So it's like 3 people involved in this one order. And it was really interesting because like you have this one person who received the product at a great deal and they're very happy about it. And then you have the card holder whose credit card information was stolen, and they're obviously very upset and trying to figure out what's going on, or they just go ahead and submit a chargeback. And you usually have them reaching out to the support team, like trying to figure out, hey, I see this charge from you guys. What is that? I never ordered from you. And they're giving like certain pieces of information. So we start with like, what's your name? What's your address? Because we're trying to find the order, but we can't find it because it was shipped to a whole other person who, is not even related to this person, the card holder, in any way at all. So it's just like a whole bunch of back and forth and crazy, like tons of investigation. A lot of chargebacks were submitted before I think we ended up finding like one of those listings on a marketplace, or maybe even somebody came to us and said, hey, I noticed this is being sold here at a really low price. Is this legit? And we eventually put 2 and 2 together, with the help of some of our customers giving us information, some of the people who were victim to the fraud scheme giving us information, and figured out what was going on. So it was really weird. The fraudster never touches the product at all. They're pocketing this money, and they're basically using our fulfillment like a laundering system. So that one was pretty wild.
Yeah, that's wild. And then you're also on like essentially like chasing down rabbits of like hey, we don't see any orders. They're basically
Yeah.
essentially using the brand as like a drop shipper, where it's just like, hey, it's just a way, like you said, to launder money or just to filter it. And I can't imagine like what the customer support war room was like, where it's like, what is going on? We don't see this anywhere. We don't see anything. And so it's probably your most investigated, or probably your longest customer support ticket you've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it took weeks, probably maybe even months before we finally figured out. And once we figured it out, we were able to put some guardrails in place to prevent it. But yeah, that was definitely a tricky one.
How big, because majority of what you sell is all furniture, right? So how big of a product was it also?
Yeah, this was a very big like a very popular product. It's actually much bigger today than it was at that time. And we would have, and this was a large amount. And I don't know, like maybe that was the popular thing to do at that time for the fraud community, was this triangulation fraud. And I know I read that they do target e-commerce storefronts very often, and specifically products like that one. Um, but it happened a lot, a lot.
And
Yeah.
then like I'm just thinking about like the cost, right? Because you're shipping it to the customer, right? Or the customer who thinks it's getting it from the third party marketplace. So you're losing that logistics cost, all your time compounded looking into it, all the time trying to fight and get the evidence from a chargeback. So from an operational cost, it probably like spent 2 3 weeks just digging into this. And then like from a cost perspective, you're out on the product, you're out on the logistics, and then obviously the time you're investigating, the time
Hours.
people all start calling and trying to figure it out. It's like, a mind map. It's like you have like the string of people like going around the room.
That's what it felt like. Yeah. So yeah, it was very, very costly, very time consuming. And yeah, that was probably one of the wilder ones that I experienced.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the level of creativity people will go to, right? Because they're basically like taking legitimate brands, like harvesting credit cards by having someone buy a fake listing, taking that card and buying something else. And it's like they're kind of triple dipping, right? They're getting the item, they're getting the benefits, they're getting the other things. So it's kind of wild. And like to Alex's point, I think of like that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme. You know how he has like everything like strung up apart and together. So that was basically the Nathan James office for like a couple weeks.
Also, how did you guys crack down on it? Did you stop allowing to sell on third-party marketplaces? Did you put any guardrails there? So like no eBays, no Amazons, no Targets, no drop shippers? Or how did you guys like end up blocking this type of fraud from happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, this was not Nathan James. That would have,
Oh,
yeah, this was a supplement company that I worked with previously. Um, so what we did, yes, we would do like cease and desist for any of the listings that we would see on marketplaces. And then the payment provider gateway that we were using at the time had some built-in fraud detection and prevention filters that we were able to use. Um, and that helped as well. But yeah, mostly, and we weren't using any fraud prevention before this, so just putting that in place was helpful to help block those stolen credit card transactions from coming through. And then the cease and desist, which that was iffy. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
there, I'm like looking on Poshmark right now because it seems like people are trying to do that with the lay brass pendant. You guys are trying to like
They
clearance.
do, yeah, yeah. We haven't seen it. So we have people do list our products all the time, and I don't know if it's I think with Nathan James it's more resellers. So
Yeah.
they're getting it somewhere and then reselling it rather than fraud.
This
But
person's name is Bullseye Deals, so they're going to Target,
yeah,
getting it at some type of like sale, trying to take a clip on it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Um, cool. Well, we can move on to the next one. This one is from my time at Nathan James. Fortunately, so we have really friendly return policies. Um, we offer a 100-day return window. We cover return shipping, all that good stuff. So we have to be careful. We love to provide that for good customers, but we have to be careful, keep an eye out for the people who are trying to take advantage of it. What happened at this point in time is we had for our returns, we had a rule set up where when someone would initiate a return and they would hand the package over to the carrier, once that initial in-transit scan happened, we would go ahead and issue the refund for the return. So that's great for like the customer, especially if it's a legitimate return. They get their money back very quickly. It's done. They're happy. They're more likely to come back and shop with us again. But obviously, in some cases, that can be an issue. So one day, our warehouse reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we got this. There were 2 empty boxes that we received, and here's the information on them. What's the deal with this?" And we looked it up, and it was someone who they had ordered a couple of bookcases and ended up creating a return for it. And I don't know if they knew that this might happen where we would issue the refund on the in-transit scan, or if they were just hoping that maybe they could get away with it. But yeah, they sent us 2 empty boxes instead of 2 bookcases, and they got their full refund because we didn't realize it until the warehouse was like, "What's up with these empty boxes?" So yeah, that one's not super wild, and I think it happens a lot, and I think it's a really great example of how like policies and automations also that are designed to be really customer friendly and fast and like easy. You have to be so careful because that is exactly where you're going to get exploited. Um, and yeah, so in this case, customer kept the 2 bookcases because at that point there wasn't really anything we could do. They already got their refund. Yeah, and I think like fraud, obviously, sometimes it involves payments and credit cards, stolen credit cards, all that good stuff. But then sometimes it just involves like your normal operations, and people finding these little holes that they can exploit.
I mean,
Go ahead,
it's so
Alex.
funny when you get I think it's funny, but like because I've worked in the space, when you get a package and you look at the weight of the package and you're like, it's 0.01 pounds and it's supposed to be like 50 pounds coming back, and you're like, it's, in a lack of a better term, a really bad FTID, right? Where it's just like at some point, it's like, at least try if you're going to fraud us at some point, or at least keep us on our toes. Maybe put like a little note or something in it. But it's always interesting to see how these fraudsters act, especially when they're getting like returns back to you where they think they can outsmart you. I really wish we could have helped you back in the day of also getting them to get repayment, so you can force them like, "Hey, we didn't actually, like, we know we gave you this return back, but we're actually going to go and refork this money back." Would
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
loved to help you with that.
Do a clawback. I think the also thing is like with a lot of fraudsters, like they're smart and it might sound crazy, but they have like hacking tools into your return management and they can read some of the source code to see is it refund upon scan, refund upon inspection, refund upon etc. Because a lot of it, I'm sure y'all have different policies, right? So if I'm ordering a big couch, like I can't just put a shipping label. Maybe y'all send someone out to go help with that, right? So they know, okay, those are the items not to target, but like, a 20 pound bookcase, I'm just making something up or something along those lines. Like they know that flows into different flows and it's kind of creative, the creativity that they can go into where they can actually physically see some of the workflows or refund events that people are generating from their, RMS tool.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I didn't really think about it. I think there's 2 different kinds, right? There's the really sophisticated people who can go in and figure these things out, just through like the know-how. And then there are the people who I think they're just like either just like your everyday person who's just like, "I'm just gonna try this and see if I can get away with it." Or they just like find a policy that they can, um, take advantage of. Um, yeah, I'm always amazed at the sophisticated ones who can really. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy what they can do.
I think like the universal thing we always say, like getting off every call, is like everyone we talk to is like, if all these bad actors put their forces for good, the world would be a better place. But they just make so much money and it's just so much easier. Where it's like, but universally, yes, like you have some of the smartest people in the world, unfortunately, committing fraud.
Also, it's kind of like the notion when you give a mouse a cookie because they leak it to everyone. So then everyone wants a cookie and a glass of milk and all this, etc. for everyone else. And like, unfortunately, like I think you brought up a really good point. Like you make these customer friendly policies, you just kind of, not y'all, but like you in general, rush to like turn on like return upon scan, and you don't think about the implications. And I think that's like a very formidable notion of D2C. You turn on virtual like chat assistants, they're gonna help you more than like, talking to a CX agent because they don't think about the implication of the P&L, right? It's always fun. And the downstream effect of now you have to go play this wild goose chase of emailing the customer. The customer is going to block you when the second that they read that something to their warehouse. They'll threaten a chargeback so they can double dip. They'll do anything and everything that they could do. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Also, I'd like to take a moment to just say, why does everyone think the Better Business Bureau has like governing authority
Magic
on
powers.
any brand or any business? Yeah. It's just like, hey, I'm gonna threaten the Better Business Bureau. It's like this, like, I genuinely don't even know what the Better Business Bureau even does. I just know it exists and I know it's a threat, but I have no idea what it actually does.
I feel like it's the ultimate, almost like the ultimate fraud or scam, because they're, and not like in a real sense,
Yeah.
but like they're just like, pay us to like be able to manage these complaints. And it's like nobody even, I don't go ever check the Better Business Bureau when I'm
Mm-mm.
looking to buy something, like see, oh, does this brand have complaints on the BBB?
No.
It's
I
crazy.
feel like if you have too good of like if you have no complaints, that's like almost too suspicious. You know what I mean?
So next one is also something we've experienced at Nathan James, and this can happen, I think, anytime you're selling your product on a marketplace like Amazon in particular. Amazon is the worst because, and depending on your method, like whether you're a vendor or a seller or whatever else, the amount the amount of data that you can access for your customers and or the people who are buying your products through Amazon can be very, very limited. So you can't, like, if someone says, I bought your product from Amazon, in some cases you cannot just go and like verify that like you would think you could. And so that was the case for us. And what would happen is a customer would say they bought our product on Amazon, and claim that there was some damage to it. And our standard procedure would be to ask for proof of purchase, which is an Amazon invoice. And then we would also ask for photos of the damage. So what we would see, and this was before AI really got big. So I can only imagine that this is probably even more of an issue today. But they would generate, there was some kind of like website you could go to generate a fake Amazon invoice. So they would do that, and then they would go and go to one of the listings of the product on Amazon and look at the reviews and find a review photo that someone else had posted with product damage for that product, and then they would send us that photo. And so for the first like few of those, we were like, okay, this is legit. So we would send a replacement. They would end up getting a free product. They never purchased our product. And I think so, like for us, how we ultimately caught it was when you're looking at Amazon invoices like multiple times a day, every day, you get really familiar with what it looks like and what might be off. So some of our team members started to notice with these that there were like a few little things that just weren't right, like some spacing was off, or something was in a different place where it isn't normally listed on the invoice. And they would flag those, and they would be like, we're feeling a little iffy about these. Something seems suspicious. And so we would look into it further and ultimately found out that, yeah, this was a thing people were doing fairly often, is generating these fake invoices and grabbing fake or real photos, but not, they were getting them from other places, stealing other people's photos and sending them to us. So yeah, that was interesting because I guess it's taking like, and again, now with AI, you could probably make a much better fake invoice.
They're not good. They're
Oh,
not
really?
good. Stop you ahead of time and tell you they're not good. You
Well,
can see
that's
it.
good. We'll still catch them. But it's
I'll
probably
say it's
easier and
not
faster.
good right now.
Yeah.
Keyword right now.
Yeah, exactly. At least faster, and then they could probably also like um take a like just a photo from our website, right, of a product, or maybe just a customer photo of a product that isn't damaged, and probably get AI to like add some damage to it. So yeah, you have to, I think that's an interesting thing, like documentation fraud. Essentially, you have to be on the lookout for um fake documentation, fake photos, things like that, people stealing photos.
How many times did someone submit the same template or same image to you guys?
Probably, yeah, probably, it probably happened quite a bit, especially before we really started. Well, like once we noticed it was a thing and we're able to tell everybody to be on the lookout for it, I would say it did happen at least a few times where they would just use the same photo.
I asked not to like call you like I think every brand, but like we work with a beauty brand company and someone uploaded a picture of mascara on multiple different accounts, and I think it was over like it started at 13, it's over 30 now, and it's always like cycle the different picture of the mascara. It was like the wand was bent, the like mascara was dried up, and they're like, I can't believe you sent it to me, and it's like you're not even trying at this point.
My good question, Taylor, is like, what was that aha moment when you actually figured out that those was fake? Like, is it kind of like a Willy Wonka, like when you got the golden ticket, like someone jumped out of the chair, is like, holy crap, like I just discovered this? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think it was probably one of our agents that was like, and I don't remember. I think it was probably like, and what they did is they took what they knew was a legitimate invoice and compared it side by side with the one that they thought was fake, and they were like, look at this like spacing, or this font doesn't look right. It was something small like that. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's pretty weird. And so then after, and we were also able to eventually go to Amazon too. And again, like we can't just directly access this information because this is Amazon. These are Amazon customers. They don't give us that data. So we were able to go to them and say, is this like a legitimate invoice for you guys? And they were able to answer that question. So we were able to kind of confirm our suspicions. Um, but yeah, it was definitely oh wow, we've been had moments
Yeah.
like, watch out for this,
Oh.
guys.
And also, images are hard because I feel like addresses, and names are a lot more memorable, right? Compared to
Mhm.
just like, do I remember this image, these little different things, and like, I think that's like one of the things we do for like shout out Tanner, love Tanner and the order protection team. But like, they get so many police reports, and you'll just see like people don't actually have the same name on the police report as they're filing the report, and just like
Yeah.
little things. But it's so easy to skip because I think just the way our brains are processed, it's just like you just see an image over and over again. It's just like templatized.
Or
You just don't
you
look
don't
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or you don't believe that someone would actually like I think
Right.
majority of us have a moral compass. I don't think these people do, where like you think frauding a police report is A, not a felony, B, you can't just like believe that someone would do it. And so it's like I think when you're like looking at it, you're like, yeah, why would someone even Photoshop it? And then the more and more you dig, you're like, yeah, I got one where it was like Lieutenant Robin Williams, that's the name, and I'm like, yeah, Lieutenant
Wow.
Robin Williams is not real. If there is a Lieutenant Robert Williams, I'm sorry, but like, it was just really funny.
That is funny. Yeah, I want to meet him.
Yeah, me too. Also, I don't know if you guys accept this, and it's like the online police reports, because anyone can fill out an online police report. They don't
Mm,
really check it. So that's another, if the Amazon has slowed down, you should check if people are just filling out these online cases.
mm-hmm.
They go
Yeah,
nowhere.
and this kind of also like is a good segue, I guess, into the another one, which is similar, because and it's like, again, we have friendly policies, but and I think this is less like of the sophisticated fraudsters and more of the like people realizing, and it might be like someone purchases from us one time and they have an issue and they get it resolved and they're like, "Ooh, that was very easy." And there were no questions asked and no, hoops to jump through. And then they might come back and like try to do it again, but with a less legitimate reason, or maybe no legitimate reason at all. So this is what we'll see. We call them policy abusers, where they will contact us repeatedly each time. Usually it's a new issue. Sometimes they're claiming that it's the same issue again. Sometimes we've even had people try to use the same photo they sent us originally. Again, similar to the Amazon photo thing. Some people just don't even try that hard. They're just like, here's the same photo over and over. And it can be hard too, because especially if you have a large team. I've got 21 frontline team members. This is spread potentially across multiple different people. And so if one person gets it one time and another person gets it the next time, they may not immediately recognize like, oh yeah, this person already claimed this issue or already sent this photo. So that can set you up to be taken advantage of just because this is being spread across a large team. So it's so important to have like a consolidated view in place of like the customer's history and what refunds or compensations they received, so that if a brand new person gets this customer, they can see that history and then hopefully if the customer is like trying to, they're coming back with the same issue and the same photo or whatever, it'll just make the team member more aware, like I need to be on the lookout, I need to be on my toes with this customer. So yeah, that's really important, especially across a large team.
I'm kind of smiling ear to ear, and I like desperately want to screen share some stuff with you about what we're building, but I'll show you afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I think like that's just what we fundamentally believe. Like we say, like we believe the future of fraud is happening in customer support, because any customer complaint, so like we think about everything we went through, like triangulation, we think about like fake images, we think about return fraud, we think about just customer complaints of like, oh, it didn't arrive, it came damaged. All of that is being routed to the customer support team, right? And typically the customer support team doesn't always have full visibility, or they don't know if it's fraud or not fraud. And the kind of complicated things is also their incentives are to be customer friendly, close tickets quickly, have a high NPS, and actually fraud actually goes against that. And that's where like the friction of a fraudster comes through, kind of like jolts and kind of can break that customer support experience. And like that's where I just viewed like the world coming, is because like clients are getting way more creative. It's not just stolen credit cards. Now it's anything can be masked as fraud,
Yep.
which makes your life 100 times harder. So I'm sorry about that, but it just yeah, I don't know. It's just really fascinating, because like I think a lot of people underestimate how important customer support and customer experience really is, and everything that needs to be managed by those teams.
Yeah, I think like, and it's very rare, honestly, very rare to have problems with actual payment fraud or credit card fraud anymore. That's really pretty easy to prevent with the tools that are available today. So yeah, it's the very creative and like post-purchase now fraud that we're seeing way more of. And that is much harder to identify and prevent than the traditional, credit card payment fraud.
It's like a jawbreaker, right? The core and the center is like payment fraud, and then like abuse is like circling outside. And like maybe it's a bad analogy, but like you said, payment fraud's relatively solved, right? And like that's like a hair on fire problem, but abuse becomes bigger and bigger, and it doesn't really get solved in a traditional manner, right? And personally, that's why I love what we built at Yofi. And as working on the inside, I was at Nike and Apple. I saw the same thing, and spuns a lot of passion to build what we built today.
No, I agree. I think the interesting thing is like, and at least the cool thing is that there's a subjective nature of post-purchase, right? Like, because like y'all got some return fraud, but I think just from our interactions, return fraud isn't like huge for furniture, especially when it's like 100 pounds and whatnot. But like, how do you mask these different things? How do you know if it's a legitimate complaint or not? And also, it's like, what do you define as fraud as a brand, right? Because the way I always think about it is like, Nike and Adidas have the same problem, but how do they want to approach it is fundamentally different, which I think is like really cool, because you can elevate actually the CX experience and actually define your definitions.
Yeah, and it's definitely true. I think the definition of fraud varies very wildly across companies, and also just like different products. You have to have different definitions, and you have to have different ways of approaching it. No, it's not a one size fits all by any means.
It's everyone has a different shoe size. Everyone likes a different mattress. Why not do the same thing for fraud, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has their different thresholds and what they want and don't want. Amount of brands I talk to where they're like, I don't care about resellers, and then the next brand you talk to, oh, we care so much about resellers. We care about the returns. It's just like a different slew, and I think that's what needs to happen in this industry, especially from vendors' perspective. But again, I'm biased, so I'm not the bad to ask. I have one more question for you.
Yep.
What was the coolest, let's say, moment you've had where like you could trust a tool, whether it's like an order protection or like a fraud vendor where you saw like, hey, you know what, my tool's doing exactly what I want it to do.
Yeah.
Or it gave you like comfort when you go to bed at night and you're like, I don't have to go look through all these orders in the morning.
Definitely has been NoFraud for us at Nathan James. We before were doing manual review so we were using Shopify's native like fraud analysis, and so if any order was flagged as high risk, and sometimes we would also look at the medium risk orders, we would like manually review them, reach out to the customer, things like that. So my team was handling all that, spending time on that. And it was very like 50-50. Sometimes we would catch it and it would be like we'll cancel the order and it was good because it was probably real fraud. Sometimes we would cancel the order and it was probably a legitimate customer. Other times we would let it through and it was actually fraud and we would get charged back. So it wasn't very effective at all. Again, us spending time on it, up late at night wondering like, what am I going to do with these orders? We got to review these orders this week. Now it's just like set it and forget it, which is amazing. And we hardly ever have any issues. We just don't have to worry about it anymore, which is so nice. We can focus on the other amazing types of fraud out there and how we're going to prevent those next. But yeah, that was definitely, it's been a game changer for us.
It's going to get better, even better. I promise you. We're cooking. We're excited. So
Taylor, thank you so much for taking the time, recounting some of the horror stories. Hopefully we didn't give you any PTSD. But thank you so much for taking the time and walking us through it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Checkout fraud isn't the problem anymore. Post-purchase fraud is. Wyllo protects your returns, refunds, and chargebacks in one place. Learn more at wyllo.ai. Wow. I love Tractor Supply so much. I really would pay for a meeting there. Could you imagine us in our like tin hats talking about the BBB being a conspiracy there?
I think we would fit in, to be honest. But I'm quite excited. Like I love talking to Taylor. She always has such great insights, and like we said, it's just so unique. Given like just what Nathan James does, kind of the furniture, the heavy aspect of things, and also the omni-channel aspect of things, and the fake receipts and the different things. Like
it's so interesting, especially coming from like a third party or like a vendor, and then people going online and being like, "Hey, you know what? I bought it from you," and then your hands are tied.
Yeah, and the best things, like I just thinking from Taylor, is just like when your suspicions are confirmed, when you find that like golden trend, aha moment, you can tie it across is always like such a like rejuvenating feeling, because like you've had suspicions probably for weeks.
Like grabbing the paper, ringing all the alarm bells in the office, being like, I got this guy.
Yeah, 1,000% hitting the gong. But yeah, just very excited to have Taylor, and
really such a fun conversation. She's such a great leader, and I would say a role model in this space, and truly couldn't be more appreciative. Hopefully, you know, if you're going to buy Nathan James, take a double check. If the price seems too good on a third party marketplace, maybe call Taylor on customer support or chatter and be like, hey, is this legit or not? Don't give her too many tickets, but if the price seems fishy, it's probably not real.
1,000%. And, you know, just to like summarize like our meeting, just We would love to create a poll of who thinks the Better Business Bureau is a conspiracy or a legitimate operation. So please vote below.
Next episode, we'll show you what this looks like from the customer side, where people literally post their fraud on Instagram without realizing it. Maybe don't tag the brand you're doing fraud with. I don't know, just a friendly suggestion. The customer isn't always right, but their intent is. We'll see you next time.